I'm going to start with something that for me has been present since the day I started working in Rogue One, which is that I've never felt that I was working with material that connected me weirdly with something that had nothing to do with my passion for acting or to my childhood, no? To being a kid and playing and growing up thinking of this universe. And suddenly acting became as personal as reconnecting with my childhood. And I was wondering, because you were around 20?
When I first started with Star Wars, yeah, I was 19.
The first film, 19.
19, yeah.
How did that feel back then? Were you still like attached as audience to this universe?
Yeah, big time. It was just a crazy journey finding my way into Star Wars. I was kind of fresh out of high school and, you know, very much committed to this craft of acting and romanticized about it. And I loved Star Wars. And when the audition came around, it was exciting, but it felt too big. It felt like just unattainable, you know? I remember meeting George Lucas for the first time, and that was thrilling. And then auditioning with Natalie Portman. And it was a very long auditioning process, but the entire time I never really thought that it would, you know, would ever sort of really go my way. So I was just enjoying it. And then when I got the phone call to actually get to play the part, that was a big deal for me. A life-changing thing. And how about for you? I mean,
I think we were very lucky to come so far in the journey of Star Wars. You know, we came in like 2016 with Rogue One, and it was probably the process was the same, a long, crazy casting process that makes it sound like impossible. No, I remember traveling a lot. Once I was asked to go to London, and I went inside the hotel by the back door. It already sounded so bizarre and unique, and nothing to do with filming, you know, with the film industry that I knew.
Right. Well, you were already like a very, you know, established actor. You'd been working for a while, and
I was asked to play even younger, yeah, since then. Now it's like crazy. I'm supposed to be 15 years younger than I am. That's what I was thinking. Like, you got it at 19, 20, when that age is so close, the age of being 15 and having the toys, you know?
Yeah, no, it was like my, you know, my wildest dream come true, you know, and I felt like I was stepping into the ring with all these sort of heavyweights, you know, getting to work with George Lucas and Ewan McGregor and Sam Jackson and all these like incredibly talented people.
Yeah.
And
but you started acting before, huh?
Yeah, I'd started when I was young, and I kind of developed my passion for it, sort of studying theater.
So you started doing theater when you were...
Yeah, when I was like in elementary school. And then I went to Performing Arts High School and sort of focused on dramatic studies.
That must be a shock to go from theater to like.
But there was a similarity there too, right? Because we were filming all in front of blue screens and green screens, which for me was very much like being in the theater, you know, just because it demands a lot of your imagination and you don't necessarily have like all of the real stimuli there to react to, and so it wasn't such a leap for me.
Yeah.
And I didn't have the experience either, you know, so it wasn't like I was used to working a certain way.
Yeah.
So that was just kind of what I knew. Well, I'd actually really love to start with hearing about how you got into Rogue One, because that was kind of your introduction into Star Wars.
It was crazy. I couldn't believe it. I remember it was the first time such secrecy happened around anything I was going to be part of, you know. I was asked by my agent to be in LA to meet someone for something that couldn't be said on the phone, and then I was here, and I went into a meeting in a restaurant that was completely empty, and there was a guy sitting in the corner with a computer open, and this was Gareth, the director, and I sat down with him, and it was just us for 4 hours.
So you had no concept that it was Star Wars at all at this point?
In that moment, my agent said, this might be Star Wars, yes. But we don't know, because
so secret,
we don't know exactly what they want you to do. I guess she didn't want me to get any excited, you know, about anything. Probably she had a better idea of what it was, but how difficult it would be to get it, you know. And I was sitting there, and Gareth explained to me a whole film. And he kept talking about a guy, and then this guy, and then this guy, and then this guy. And I go like, what is he talking about? I like making the joke that I thought at the end he was going to ask for Gael's number, you know, my friend. Like, do you have Gael's phone? Because... But anyway, the thing is, he said at the end, I would really like you to play this role. And I
Really?
I want to know if you want, because our whole process will have to start right away, you know. I want to work with you, but now we have to convince everyone else.
Amazing.
But I didn't know what everyone else meant and convincing them, you know, in terms of like that started a 3-month or 4-month process.
But you knew right from the get-go that was his desire,
he
and
he wanted that.
planted his flag on that hill, and that's very cool.
And he said something that was very interesting, because I said to him, like, but I don't see myself here. What do you mean? I love these films. I've seen everything about it, but what is it that you want from me? Well, how do I fit here? You know, no one has my accent. I've never thought this could be possible. And he said, since I saw Y tu mamá también, I thought you could be great for a role like this, and I want that kind of tone in the film. I want that realism and that feeling of that is everyday life, you know. But I say it because I never thought that a film like Y tu mamá también would get me the chance to, you know, to be in a session for a character in the world of Star Wars that meant so much to me, but I, at the same time, was like opposite, you know. It was like
so
two different worlds, you know. And it was interesting and fun, and it was also quite scary because I didn't want it to get too excited about the idea, you know. I knew that there was always something else to try, someone else needed to see it, some other test I had to do, and it was a long process. How long of a process do you remember doing?
For me, it was months. It was like a good 3 or 4 months.
Wow.
Of first meeting with the casting director, and then meeting with George Lucas, and you know, more time would go by, you wouldn't hear anything, and then I went in for an audition with Natalie Portman, and I think they read maybe 4 or 5 other actors, and then I got a phone call like a few days after I did my screen test with her. But tell me, when you started on Rogue One, was there like a moment when you were like, man, I'm in Star Wars?
You know, one of the rules of the film was like somehow be a homage to the Genesis, you know, to A New Hope, to the very beginning, in the way they shot those films. You know, the idea was to be everything very mechanical, everything like very.
Well, that's what I love about it. You know, it's a much darker and more grounded sort of take on a Star Wars story.
We were allowed because there was no Jedis, you know, there was no, like, this was about the people. You know, the magic was gone, and the people had to find a way to bring change, you know, and to understand the sense of community, you know. That's what I love about the film, and then about Tony Gilroy's perspective on Andor, that it's very simple to apply these ideas to the world we live in, to end up reflecting on what's needed or what we are capable of doing as society, you know. I guess, I mean, they have an end, right? They're more human in that sense, like we all know, you know, things will end, you know, these characters, that's it, you know, they don't have this magic. Even though they can believe in it, they don't have it, you know, they are just simple, regular people doing extraordinary things, you know. And I thought that was very brave on doing something like that in this universe, you know. If we were to be part of this, it's because we were going to bring something different. Otherwise, there was no need for us. Something's wrong.
Whatever it is, they're taking their time about it.
What's going on? What are they saying? I think it's level 2.
I think it was very important for Star Wars because it is so sort of grounded in reality, and it's populated by, you know, real people who you can sort of imagine their lives existing beyond this story. And I think it made it even more so accessible too, you know, to the audience. So like, what was that like for you, getting to play in this sort of fantastical world, but in a much more grounded way?
I think it was something that we reminded ourselves every day. In Rogue One and in Andor, I think we took it even further, you know, the idea of you have to forget this is Star Wars, you know, it has to become very personal for the audience. So it has to be then personal to you, you know. Everything needs an explanation. You have to understand everything and kind of like find the parallel with your life, you know, what this moment means in your life, who this character would be in your life, how would you, move around this town. Tony Gilroy is a great leader, and he was very specific always. Like every time you had to explain too long what you wanted to do, he would be like, there's no room for that. It has to be simple. It has to be easy. It has to be real. Like you don't explain to me too much what you do in your kitchen. Therefore, it should look like that. This is your house. Just leave it, you know? And it was a constant reminder every day. Like if it started to feel awkward, if it started to feel imposed or weird or from a galaxy far, far away, then we were doing the wrong thing, because the idea was to bring the story about the people that we don't see much in the films of Star Wars, you know, to add, to be different, to be unique, and at the same time be part of it, you know. I think the long format allowed us to also take it further.
There's no way out, Master.
I'm going to ask you now about your series. How is that like to suddenly have, I don't know how many hours you made?
For the Obi-Wan show, It was 6 episodes, and each episode was, I think, a little under an hour. So not
under?
Yeah. So
it's like
so not
5
quite
hours.
as much as what you guys were doing in Andor.
5 hours. A film of 5 hours.
But that's pretty much what these series are. They're just sort of long format films. Coming back to Obi-Wan, that was a really great experience for me. I kind of thought that my Star Wars days were behind me. And then I got a phone call sort of inviting me to come back, which I would imagine maybe you had a similar thing with when you finished Rogue One. I don't know, did you know you were going to get to continue with it, or?
I thought it was a joke on set from all of us, like, we should do one day we should tell how these people got here.
But they were talking about it back then.
We were discussing it, but never we never took it seriously, because we didn't know if the film was going to be like, or the opposite, like if we were going to be the film no one went to see, you know. We had to wait for the film to come out to understand there was room for something like this, you know.
It was one of my favorite Star Wars films.
Oh man, that's so nice to hear.
And Andor, I think, is so successful too. And having the time to spend with these characters, and it's like a great origin story for the beginning of the rebellion, and getting to see the arc of your character and how he kind of starts off at this place where he doesn't really want anything to do with any of this. He just, kind of wants to keep to himself, but his destiny is calling.
I think it's because you know what he's capable of. So the interesting journey is like, how far can we start from that? You know, how lost can he be? And it's a show about his flaws and his, like, that contradiction that makes us real, you know, and humans. Like, we're not always the best version of ourselves, you know. And it was nice to find him in the worst version of Cassian possible.
Anakin. Anakin's gone.